Hi guys, again from Dubai. I have a very special guest with me today, Titus Gebel. Titus is the creator of the free private cities concept and also founder and CEO of Tipolis. And we were talking, Titus, about free private cities 2 or 3 months ago. Would you very shortly just remind our spectators, our viewers, what is the concept of free private cities, what is free private cities about, and then we will come to the update. We're talking about the newest developments in that area.
Yeah, Raphael, the basic idea of a free private city is that you have a better incentive structure than in our political systems. I think the political systems have misincentives, why that politicians are not liable and the electorate thinks they just can vote money into their pockets. So I thought that if we just replace that system by a service provider system, that means there is not government and subjects, but there is a client and service provider, then we get better results. And the free private city concept foresees that a private company, a for-profit company, is offering protection of life, liberty and property. And this is clearly defined in a contract, and you have to pay for it maybe €1,500 or dollar per year. And other than that, you are basically, you and civil society is free to make their own arrangements. You design your own life within that framework which protects you and has an independent dispute resolution. That's all, right? And the difficulty, of course, is, hey, there's no more land available, right? So we have to negotiate with governments who are willing to try out new things in order to help improve their country, to create something like a special economic zone, special administrative zone that allows for such a concept. And of course, in the beginning, it's certainly not the pure concept that can be made reality, but a kind of hybrid models that have some elements of free private cities and some elements of traditional public-private partnerships or special economic zones.
So, in general, free private cities are city-states that have a minimal structure and are based on voluntary participation.
Yeah, but again, they're not really states because they would be a part of an existing state, but they would have substantial internal autonomy to do that what you just said, right? That they're protecting life, liberty and property only for people who want to join. That is completely voluntary. If you don't like the system, just stay away. But you have a contract and you can read the contract in advance. And the other important feature is I cannot change the contract unilaterally, nor the other party, nor the citizens, nor even the majority can't change it, right? So you're really, as an individual, you're really
know
protected.
In advance what you subscribe to.
Exactly.
Right?
And it's
what
not,
you get in advance also for your payment.
Yeah, and what you get for your payments, and if you are robbed, you can sue me, right? You can say, hey, you promised me security, I was robbed, now you owe me damages. And that's how service provision works, right?
Okay, now what most people would say, this is a nice concept and exciting concept, but I mean, it's unrealistic, not possible,
yeah.
Whatever, you're a dreamer, whatever, but in reality, you are also a founder and CEO of the company called Tipolis.
Yeah.
And Tipolis implements this idea of free private cities in several locations around the world. So, and last time you were talking about Honduras, about some private cities in Honduras, and also about plans for further private cities. You were talking, I think, in November last time. Mm-hmm. So would you update us about what happened since then, what happened in Honduras and in the other locations? Well, yeah. Of course, the things that you can talk about publicly.
Yeah.
So what were the developments since then?
Okay, so I started the company because I didn't just want to make a kind of a nice idea, right? I want it really to become this reality, because we have analysis enough, very intelligent things and books and thinkers and scholars, but now we have to really to act, right? In order to make a better and a freer world a reality, which is protecting the individual person as a human being, and not the collective, or not a group or whatever. And surprisingly, that went faster than we expected, right? Of course, Honduras was a little bit a situation where the government themselves decided we have a real problem with our systems. Back then, the country was in the hands of drug lords and narco gangs, which infiltrated the police, security, and even the courts. And so some jurists in the government said, we're trying to create a Hong Kong type of development, a country within a country. And they came up with a law, and they weren't thinking about free private cities or private governance, but we were invited to help them back in 2017, and we helped creating a kind of a free private city influenced private governance system where people have a contract that protects them. And that was successful, was approved by government in 2019.
It's called ZEDE, right?
ZEDE, Zone for Economic Development and Employment. And there were 2 other ZEDEs created after that. So we have 3 in the meantime. And each of them is a little bit different. So there's not just one type of free private city. And even I wouldn't even call them free private cities in Honduras, because these are public entities. But they have some elements of free private cities. And we have now interested party governments from several from Africa, which were open to those ideas, because they think, as an experiment to gain more investment, to create jobs, and to have getting out of this corruption and having more efficiency by importing best practices from all over the world. That could maybe work for our country. And I cannot disclose the countries with which we are in negotiations, because it's a little bit too early, but it's looking good, right? So there's a real interest, and mostly the people who have invited us are real patriots, that they say we want to bring our country forward, and we see that our political system is somewhat not really going forward, and we want to try out something new. And it's not only Africa. I mean, you may have heard about Bitcoin City, the idea in El Salvador, the first country that has made Bitcoin legal tender. And they are now also considering making Bitcoin City a kind of autonomous zone. And we have also presented our ideas there. We have a country in southeastern Europe that is open.
It may happen that Bitcoin City will become a free private city as well.
Or
right?
kind of. It's a theoretical option. We don't know how politics will decide, but yeah, that could happen.
Okay. I don't know if you can talk about that. If not, we will cut it off. One of your projects in Africa passed already a law in the parliament, so there will be a possibility. I mean, it's like a very advanced project already. It's not only just talking about to governments.
Yeah,
right?
it's looking good. Yeah. And certainly, once we have really finalized all the paperwork, then there will be the time to publish that and to invite people to come as either investors or residents or business owners. And happy to talk to you again then. I would say it can happen that we will come on stream with 2 or even 3 new projects in the next 2 years.
Wonderful. Yeah. It's developing, I mean, very quickly. It's beyond my expectations, I have to say. What about let's say the first cities in Honduras? I mean, for people to understand or to get better let's say, picture of that? How big are they in the sense of how many inhabitants or maybe businesses, and what type of business do they attract? What are the profiles, more or less, of these cities? Because people say, these are cities for rich people, for millionaires who come there and live there, and just, if you have so-called fuck you money, then you go to that, but it's not for normal people.
No, but this is a misconception. At the moment, I don't know why, because the moment people heard the term private city, they think it's for rich people only. But I mean, if you consider in Honduras, in the Sede Prospera, what you have to pay is $1,300 per year, and if you're Honduran, you'll have to pay $260 per year. So this is far from being for the rich only, and even Prospera is maybe the most.
So this is, so to say, 260 instead of the taxes that you would pay in a normal,
there's no tax.
Normal city.
It's not true. In Honduras, there is a certain tax. It's a relatively, I think, 7% income tax in Sede Prospera. Why that? Because it's not a free private city model. This is just the requirement of the law, right? It says there's a minimum tax necessary.
So you were talking about Prospera. So what are more or less what is the size of the city? What kind of inhabitants does it attract? What kind of businesses? To give the viewers a better picture of that.
Yeah, and Prospera has just started to build, so there are only I would say 30 people now on the site, but they are currently constructing large new living towers, living and working spaces. I would say mostly for Hondurans. They are doing remote work on the screen and call center type of work. The majority of inhabitants will be Hondurans and must be Hondurans because it's in the law. 85% or 90% of the people employed have to be Hondurans. And in the two other cities, one is called Morazan and the other Orquídea. These are more or less industrial zones for Hondurans only. And the Orquídea has about 1,000 workers, and Morazan is currently building, I think, 68 houses or 48 houses, and they are also for the workers, 300 or 400 people there, but they want to grow to 10,000 people. And they're very attractive for Hondurans because renting a small house costs $120 per month. You have security, you have better living than in the Honduran environment. So for the average Honduran worker, this is really attractive. The problem is that the Honduran election have brought a socialist president who has told that they want to get rid of the Sede project. The problem is that despite this is so basically advantageous to Hondurans, there's a lot of hostile propaganda against those Sedes, and this is also a takeaway. There is, despite the fact that it's 100% voluntary, and nobody was ever forced or expropriated because it was all starting on uninhabited territory. The land was bought from private persons, so you have no disadvantage if you're not participating. There was a big propaganda against it from the left, and this will always be the case. There's always a group in the society that can only destroy things, that can never create things. And this is a typical example here. So I think if you want to create something like that, you have to make sure from day one that you have a good public relations, that you educate the people what you are doing. And at the moment we have the situation that due to the change in government in Honduras, we had a friendly government to Sedes, now we have a hostile government to Sedes, and this is also a test case how good the legal protections in the Constitution of Honduras, in the Sede law, are to protect those type of cities or prosperity zones or free private city to any kind of government change. Because this is always a problem, right? If you have If you're creating something, you're establishing something, then comes another government, says we don't want that, then you need the protection for a certain amount of years. And in Honduras, it's 50 years because they have a treaty with Kuwait guaranteeing 50 years for the CEDES, and that is applicable to all CEDES. And we will see what happens there. But this is a very important test case for the whole project.
Right. At the end, I think, if you observe what is happening in Canada, I don't know when viewers will be viewing that, seeing that recording, and what will be the situation at that moment. But right now, we can see that actually, even if you have a constitution, charter of human rights, and so on, it doesn't protect you from government if government wants to violate your rights, right? So at the end, you need just to involve, as you said, have a good PR and involve as many people as possible. So it's like in their best interest for it to work. Right?
Yeah, and this is exactly what the reason for the idea of free private cities is. If you compare it to Canada, where the government is just, as you said, basically freezing people's accounts without a law justifying that, right? And because they are not satisfied with what the government does, right? Whereas in a free private city, that's exactly what we want to avoid, because you would be a client, right, not a subject, and we want to satisfy you, because otherwise you would just leave and go to another free private city. So we have to deliver a good service,
right.
And that is something where we really would not be in a position to just do whatever we want, even if it's a stupid lockdown measurement that has no scientific value. We cannot do that, because people would immediately sue us. We would lose clients, and we would lose reputation.
Right.
And this is why we need free private cities, so that you have a better position than you have today in countries like even Canada.
Yeah, that's right. Another aspect of the situation of Canada is that people start to realize, I don't know if you have heard about the bank run or the bank outages in Canada, so people apparently started going to banks and withdrawing their money because they realize their money is not safe in the system. It can be seized by the government.
Yeah,
so people started to realize, about the value maybe of Bitcoin.
Exactly. Yeah.
So how do you think cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, are connected maybe to free private cities? What role would it play? Does it somehow impact that development, or is it independent, or is it like in sync? What's the role of, let's say, cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin in that development?
I would say it's complementary. It's definitely something which has a similar approach, which is creating a parallel structure, which is giving you more freedom and more choice. And insofar, it is clear that if you say we have successfully created a parallel structure to the monetary system, which people did with Bitcoin, and now we're creating a parallel structure to the state system with free private cities, that is a similar approach, and that is one of the reasons why we have...
So it's kind of decentralization, right? Because your vision is like a world of 1,000 Liechtenstein.
Yeah,
right?
And even in Honduras, where it's not a free private city, right? It's a kind of a hybrid model, and only one of those three has really free private city elements. So you have only 3 cities, and even those 3 are different. That means a lot of competition on a small scale, and if you don't like that, you just move to the other city, or to another free private city, or to whatever. And insofar, I think we will probably, the more restricted governments will be with currency issues, the more the natural fit for a free private city would say, hey, we are a free banking system, you use whatever currency you want, and people will probably switch to Bitcoin/Lightning systems. And I think this is something we would probably even actively introduce in our next project.
Okay. What about inflation? What about energy crisis that we have, at least in Europe and also in other parts of the world? how that development can propel or maybe inhibit the development of free private cities. How do you see that development going on in that aspect, in that topic?
Yeah, I think it's important that free private cities solve the energy issue and have reliable and cheap energy. The cheap energy and affordable energy is the key to everything, right? And of course, if it's clean, it's better. And if you have affordable energy, then you can make it warm in cold areas. You can make it cool in warm areas. You can desalinate water from the sea if you have a water shortage. It's all energy can provide you with. And one of the good things is that one tricky idea is what El Salvador is doing, saying, hey, we have excess energy and we use it because storage is an issue. We use it to mine bitcoins, right? And they can. This is an idea that might work in some places where you have like hydro energy surplus. But I think in the energy of the future will be some kind of nuclear energy, just because the energy density is so enormous. But we are not there yet. So I think in the future, if you can provide energy with a small modular reactor that is running for 25 years before you have to replace the fuel, this is giving places like free private cities enormous autonomy, an enormous economic advantage. And until then, we have to work with a combination of different energies. I think hydropower is probably the best renewable energy. If you can make this applicable, that is fine. Otherwise, you have to go with combinations of energies. But this is a very important question, and it's not going to work if you go with wind and solar alone, because it has not the reliable base load. It's too expensive, too land consuming alone. So at the moment you need probably a combination of different energies. A very important question that every free private city has to answer.
What about, there are some energy sources, even renewable energy sources, like, let's say, the water power and so on, the dams that are located far away from, from industry, from maybe cities, and, the major challenge is to actually to get that energy from the production side to the consumption to the consumption side, because there is a lot of investment in networks and a lot of development time and so on. And I don't know if you have heard that Russia, for example, wants to, because they are always, in the energy grid, if you look at that, there are always spots where you have a surplus of energy, like you produce a lot of energy, but you can't spend all that energy. And Russia decided to actually lower taxes in that areas and attract Bitcoin miners. So on the other hand, if you see countries starting to lowering taxes to attract actually some industry there, why don't they set up? Why not set up a free zone there and attract industry in that case? Provide even more motivation for industries to come, right?
Yeah, but this is already happening, right? You have special economic zones, which are a kind of predecessor of free private cities, because it's started in the 60s, and with a handful of special economic zones where you have some special regulation regarding taxes and export and import. And today we have over 5,000 special economic zones worldwide. Not all are active, but on paper you have so many. And that is already happening. So we have some very advanced special economic zones, like Dubai International Financial Center, where they have an own legal system, they have own courts. And I agree with your findings. I mean, if you can combine an environment where you have surplus of energy with a free zone or special economic zone, or even better, a special administrative zone in the form of a free private city, we will probably be able to attract a lot of jobs and investment.
Okay, so you started talking about the special zones here in Dubai, and we are in Dubai right now.
Yep.
So what is actually the difference? Because this is a returning question between free zones in Dubai and free private city.
Okay, a free private city is more than a traditional special economic zone. Normal special economic zone or free trade zone, they have some easements when it comes to taxes, export, import, maybe some labor regulations, one-stop shop bureaucracy. But these are still things that belong to the state, and the area where you have easements are relatively narrow and more tailored for businesses. What free private cities do is really what we call technically a special administrative zone. That means it's one country, two systems. Mm-hmm. You have, for example, in the Honduran Prospera zone, you have a completely different legal system to the rest of Honduras. And it's tailored for the people, not for the businesses. Of course, also for the businesses, but you have both, right? So, and they have a common law-based system in Prospera, whereas the rest of Honduras has a civil law system. And they have own courts, they can come up with own laws and regulations, and they can do it on their own. That is not possible in a special economic zone. Normally, a special economic zone has a framework which is given by the state, and that's it, right? Whereas a free private city model can develop within the free private city in all kinds of directions, and it's independently from the state and what the state makes rules for the state territory.
So free private city is more like what Hong Kong used to be in relation to China.
In the past, yeah, exactly. It's a one country, two systems model like Hong Kong, China. Would be a typical relationship of a free private city. I mean, Hong Kong has own lawmaking body, own security, own courts, even an own currency.
Yeah.
Right?
What about DIFC here? DIFC is kind of that already.
It's going into that direction, and we can see this trend that the special economic zones are becoming more and more autonomous, and that is definitely a good thing for our case. A DIFC is still subject to the ruler of Dubai, so if he changes his mind, it's gone. And free private city would be based on a contract with the host nation, which would be a better legal situation. But I think DIFC is a very interesting example. They started with own laws for businesses, and now they even have an own family law, right? Because people didn't want to be subject to Sharia law, especially if they were coming from Western countries when it comes to heritage and family. So they came up with an own law, and this is a tendency that they're becoming more and more autonomous and having own courts with hired judges from London, Singapore, and other places.
Okay, so you were talking about DIFC, and you were talking about the family law in DIFC. So it's you said it is developed from only company laws like business laws into also family laws, and you can see that these special zones they develop and become more and more, so to say, autonomous, and also complete countries or complete jurisdictions.
Yeah, your jurisdiction. It's going into that direction, and the DIFC model with own courts and an own legal system, which is based on common law, has been copied 5 or 6 times now. Abu Dhabi was first with Abu Dhabi Global Markets. Then you have Astana International Financial Center, which is Kazakhstan, and you have some other countries which copied that model. And now you can really see, I mean, every special economic zone is a confession of the state that obviously their laws are not the best, right? Otherwise it wouldn't be necessary to introduce a different system.
Right.
And this is something where people say, hey, most of those zones are maybe managed by private companies, which has a mandate by the state, and they are interested to make money, and they're not have no political agendas, right? They're just okay, want to make money, and people say, that's basically not moral, not ethical. But I would say it's much better for you as a client that you know these people want to make money, but otherwise they don't have a hidden agenda to become power mongers. Whereas in the state, look at Trudeau, how he's behaving now, the supposedly so tolerant, woke person is behaving like a dictator. And this would never happen in a special economic zone or in a DIFC, right? The management company would never behave like that. And that is what people feel. People feel let these people make 10% profit, but I know what I get, right? And that is exactly what we offer to people in a free private city. It's totally transparent, right? And if you don't like it, just stay where you are. We are not forcing you to come. This is just an offer. And I think there will be many, many possibilities for different systems within the free private city framework. You can even say we make a kind of a kibbutz type of leftist community. As long as people are voluntarily agreeing to the rules, that's not a problem, right?
Absolutely. So there can be many flavors of free private cities, catering to each, to the so to say tendencies, or let's say
personalities that are different.
Personalities are different. Those personalities.
And even within your life, you might change, right? In the beginning, you might say, "Hey, I want to go to a more communitarian system, right? I'm young and want to live together with other people and to live maybe even together in the same room." And then if you're getting older, you say, "Well, now I want to make money. Yeah, I'll go to this more classic liberal free private city system." And then when I'm old, I want to go back to my nation, to my people who speak the same language, right? So within a lifespan, you might prefer different systems. And that's what I say. I don't pretend that free private city is the answer to everything, but I know that competition is good for personal freedom, because that makes the rulers think twice what they do. Because if people can leave any time to a different system, they will be more cautious with what they do. And in so far, I think free private cities are also a philanthropic idea, because it's helping on the market of living together to give us more choice, and that competition is the only means of humankind that limits power. And that is why we need free private cities.
Okay, thanks so much, Titus, for all these insights, and I wish you, of course, a lot of success with your great ideas, because you are one of the visionaries of our times, who is about to change the world and to change the way all of us live to better, right? So improving the world as we know it, right?
Yeah, so. I hope that soon we can be more concrete with new projects, and I'm happy to tell you and your listeners and your audience what we have achieved.
Wonderful. So that's it, guys, from Dubai today. I welcome your comments. If you have any questions, we will try, maybe answer them in 2 and 3 months when we get maybe next update from Titus. I wish you a fantastic day today. Let's do something extraordinary today. See you.